Remember to give the video a thumbs up, share your insights in the comments, and subscribe to keep up with our newest narratives. At 62, I never envisioned encountering a scenario like this. Life, it seems, was meant to follow a certain rhythm by this point. The mornings unfold in the gentle embrace of my garden. Afternoons are devoted to the solace of reading, and evenings are shared with my husband, Mark, as we weave together the tapestry of our memories. Yet, on a particular evening, an intimate dialogue transformed everything, casting doubt on my previous convictions. I was aware. The tale began at a corporate gala, an elegant affair orchestrated by Mark's company. For more than 30 years, he had toiled in that place, ascending the hierarchy with steadfast commitment. Richard Caldwell, his boss, exuded a subtle yet commanding presence, a figure with whom I had merely shared courteous exchanges at past gatherings. In his mid-60s, he stood tall and distinguished, exuding a quiet confidence that appeared entirely effortless. The gala unfolded within the opulent confines of a downtown Chicago hotel, where grand chandeliers illuminated the elegantly attired guests. The atmosphere buzzed with lively conversation, the gentle clinking of glasses, and the soothing strains of a live jazz ensemble nestled in the corner. These events did not capture my interest. The solace of home was my preference. Yet, Mark had been adamant, prompting me to don a simple, navy blue dress and consent to join him. At first glance, everything appeared to be perfectly ordinary. Mark found himself engrossed in conversations with his colleagues, while I busied myself engaging with the other spouses. It was then that Richard made his way toward me. "Evelyn, may I have a moment?" he inquired, his rich voice cutting through the clamor of the room. I paused, uncertainty creeping in. What could Mark's boss possibly desire from me? Yet, I managed a polite smile and nodded, trailing behind him as he guided me down a side corridor, away from the bustling ballroom. The atmosphere shifted, the lively sounds of the gala diminishing into the background. He led me into a secluded lounge, an intimate space bathed in soft light, adorned with a crackling fireplace and plush leather armchairs. The atmosphere was thick with an unspoken tension, palpable yet understated. My heart quickened slightly as I settled into my seat opposite him. "I trust I'm not interrupting anything of significance," he remarked, presenting a faint, somewhat anxious smile. "Not at all," I assured him, though the curiosity bubbling within me was hard to ignore. "What's on your mind?" He exhaled softly, his hands moving together in a gesture that suggested he was in pursuit of the perfect expression. At last he found his voice. "It's about Mark." At that, I sat up straighter in my chair, a knot forming in my stomach. "Is something wrong?" He paused, uncertainty flickering in his eyes. "Not exactly, but there's something I think you should know." The gravity of his words hung in the air, palpable even before they were spoken. His expression bore a seriousness that unsettled me, a quiet intensity that sent my pulse racing. "Evelyn," he continued, his voice a blend of gentleness and resolve. "I've known Mark for a long time. I've observed him as he meticulously crafted his career, uplifted his colleagues, and nurtured his family. Throughout this journey, I've discerned something significant," I said, swallowing hard. "What is it?" He inclined his body just a fraction, his eyes fixed intently on me. "He doesn't appreciate you the way he should." The words settled in my chest like a weighty stone. My breath hitched, and a sudden surge of defensiveness washed over me. I don't understand," I faltered. "Mark is a devoted husband." "He's always been," Richard nodded. "I am aware of his existence. But tell me, Evelyn, when was the last time he truly saw you? Not merely as his wife, but as the extraordinary woman you are." I parted my lips to reply, yet silence enveloped me, leaving me speechless. He pressed on, his voice now a gentle whisper. "I've observed the way your gaze lingers on him, even when he's preoccupied and unaware. I've observed you lingering in the shadows. At gatherings such as these, while he immerses himself in his tasks, you pour out so much of yourself. Yet, does he ever reciprocate?" I felt the urge to protest, to assert that he was mistaken, yet a flicker of uncertainty stirred within me. I don't mean to overstep, Richard remarked, leaning back just a touch. Yet, there are moments when an outsider perceives what those within cannot grasp. I released a slow breath, my thoughts swirling. Richard examined my features intently before bestowing upon me a subtle, understanding smile. Evelyn, you deserve to be seen. The words resonated deep within me, awakening a part of my soul I had long neglected. In that moment, I found myself paralyzed, caught in a whirlwind of emotions I could hardly comprehend. Richard's words reverberated in my thoughts, awakening a feeling I wasn't prepared to face. You deserve to be seen. Had I truly remained invisible for such an extended period? I sought to dismiss his remarks as nothing more than a casual observation, a gesture of goodwill that, while well-meaning, missed the mark entirely. Yet, beneath the surface, a part of me recognized the truth in his words. Mark was a good man, a diligent provider. He had always been steadfast, dependable. Yet in those hushed moments, the ones that truly counted, when had he last really seen me? When had he last acknowledged the subtle ways I endeavored to keep our life vibrant and rich? The way I meticulously folded his shirts to his liking? The way I filled our home with his cherished belongings? The way I had remained by his side through every professional victory and setback? I cleared my throat, suppressing the lump that had formed there. Richard, he raised a hand, halting my words. I don't wish to make you uneasy, Evelyn, but I couldn't remain silent. I exhaled slowly. I value your candor. I finally replied, my voice quieter than I had meant it to be. But Mark and I have shared our lives for decades. Marriage transcends mere visibility. It embodies commitment and stability. Richard nodded in agreement. I understand, and I honor that. He leaned in a bit, his eyes steady and resolute. But have you ever asked yourself what you truly want? The question hung in the air, heavy with meaning. What I wanted. For years, I had devoted myself to Mark's needs, to the demands of our marriage, to the expectations placed upon me. Never before had I paused to contemplate my desires. A soft, anxious chuckle escaped my lips. Richard, this is certainly an intriguing discussion to be having at a corporate gala. That brought a smile to his face. I suppose it is. Yet, an undeniable urge compelled me to voice it. A pause lingered in the air, punctuated solely by the gentle crackling of the surroundings. I rose, my fingers gliding over my dress, betraying a hint of nervousness. Indeed, Mark will be curious about my whereabouts. Richard nodded, yet his expression held an enigmatic quality. Evelyn just made me a promise. I tilted my head. What is that? Do not disregard my words. Consider it, I mused, pausing for a moment before finally giving a slow nod. All right. He offered a faint smile, stepping aside to indicate the door. As I moved past him, I could feel the warmth of his presence lingering, the heaviness of our conversation still resting on my chest. The gala was still alive with energy when I made my way back. Mark occupied the same spot I had left him, engrossed in dialogue with his colleagues. He didn't notice my presence at first. I lingered at a distance for a moment, observing him intently. His face was alive with expression, his hands gesturing passionately as he spoke. It was a facet of his being that had forever captivated me. His fervor, his relentless ambition. Yet I found myself reflecting on Richard's words. Had Mark ever gazed at me in such a manner? As he finally cast his gaze in my direction, a subtle nod acknowledged my presence before he returned to his discussion. A transformation stirred within me. Richard had sown a seed, and despite my efforts to dismiss it, I was acutely aware that it was already starting to flourish. The journey back was enveloped in silence. Mark positioned himself next to me, his hands tightly clasping the wheel, his eyes intent on the shadowy path that lay before us. The city lights danced in a fleeting haze, yet my thoughts wandered far beyond their glow. Richard's words reverberated in my mind, his voice clinging to me in an unshakable manner. You deserve to be seen. I cast a fleeting look at Mark. He appeared weary, a subtle line of tension etched between his brows. After nearly 40 years of marriage, I had committed to memory every nuance of his visage. The defined contours of his jaw, the way his eyes sparkled with laughter, the manner in which his lips pressed together in deep thought. But when had he last truly seen me? He cleared his throat, shattering the stillness. "Did you enjoy yourself this evening?" The inquiry took me by surprise. He posed the question after each event, each gathering, each dinner party, as if it were a duty rather than a true interest. For a moment, I paused, weighing my response carefully. The experience was quite intriguing. He gave a distracted nod. "Good, good." And just like that, the conversation came to a close. I shifted my attention back to the window, observing the city fade into the distance as we ventured toward the serene suburbs. Upon our arrival, Mark followed his usual routine. He removed his jacket, placed his keys on the counter, and withdrew to his office for a final glance at his emails. I lingered in the kitchen, my gaze fixed on the vacant spot he had occupied moments before. Anger was not what I felt towards him. Not precisely. Mark had always been steadfast, devoted to his craft, unwavering in his habits. He had provided me with a comfortable existence, a life of stability. Yet, Richard's words had stirred something within me, a feeling I could no longer suppress. I strolled into the bedroom and glimpsed my reflection in the mirror. 62 years of life. My once auburn hair now bore the elegant streaks of silver. Faint lines etched themselves upon my face, silent testaments to the years I had traversed. Yet my eyes, unchanged, revealed a truth I had long overlooked. Loneliness. I had always thought this was merely a facet of growing older. This subtle retreat into the shadows, this slow descent into monotony. Yet now, for the first time, I questioned whether it truly was. The following morning, as Mark departed for work, he pressed a kiss to my cheek and remarked, "I'll be home late. There's a significant client meeting." I nodded, a faint smile gracing my lips. "All right, be safe." And just like that, he disappeared from view. I lingered in the doorway for what felt like an eternity before retreating back into the familiar confines of my home. Typically, my days were consumed by a flurry of errands, the rhythm of housework, or the soothing embrace of gardening. Yet today, an unsettling restlessness coursed through me. Before I could rationalize my way out of it, I found myself reaching for my phone and dialing a number. It was a decision I never imagined I would make. Richard picked up on the second ring. "Evelyn?" His voice held a subtle hint of astonishment. I inhaled deeply. "Do you have a moment for a cup of coffee?" A silence lingered between us, and then, gently, as if it were the most natural thing in the world. An hour later, I found myself seated opposite him at a serene cafe by the lake. The aroma of roasted coffee beans mingled with the scent of fresh pastries in the air. Outside, the autumn leaves twirled gracefully in the gentle breeze. Richard regarded me with a subtle, inquisitive gaze. "I found myself uncertain about whether I would hear from you." I swirled my coffee, observing the delicate dance of cream merging with the deep, dark liquid. Uncertainty lingered in my mind about making the call. He nodded, patiently awaiting my decision. I released a slow breath, contemplating your words. His face held an inscrutable expression. After a moment of hesitation, I finally met his gaze. "You were right." A spark flickered in his eyes. There was an elusive feeling, one I struggled to articulate. "Evelyn, I'm not suggesting that I harbor any regrets about my life." I interjected softly. "Mark and I have forged a bond that is both resilient and authentic. Yet, in the midst of it all, I believe I lost sight of how to desire something for my own sake." Richard leaned in a bit, and I felt a lump in my throat. At this moment, uncertainty washed over me. A hush enveloped us, punctuated solely by the faint murmur of voices in the background. At last, Richard broke the stillness, his tone soft. "I just want you to be happy." I gazed at him, truly gazed at him. Here was a man with no justification to intrude upon my existence. No cause to utter the words he had, save for the fact that he had perceived something within me that I had yet to recognize. In that moment, clarity washed over me. I was faced with a decision. I remained seated, my gaze fixed on Richard, who sat opposite me at the quaint cafe table, my fingers encircling the comforting warmth of my coffee cup. All I desire is for your happiness. His words lingered in the atmosphere, weighty yet tender, reminiscent of a truth I had long evaded. For years, I convinced myself that contentment sufficed, that security, stability, and loyalty formed the foundation of a fulfilling existence. And indeed they were. Yet Richard had revealed something else within me, something I had not even realized was absent, a yearning to experience. I inhaled deeply, the burden of my reflections bearing heavily upon me. Richard, I find myself at a loss with all of this. His gaze gentled. You needn't do anything, Evelyn. Simply ponder what brings you joy. When was the last occasion you indulged in something solely for your own sake? I began to speak, yet hesitated. When indeed was that moment? I had devoted years to ensuring Mark felt supported, that his career, his aspirations, and his universe remained unscathed. I had crafted a life steeped in order and routine. Yet I found myself questioning my own identity. As I took a sip of my coffee, the rich, bitter warmth enveloped me, providing a fleeting sense of grounding. Who am I beyond the confines of my marriage? I found myself surprised by my own words. Richard offered a small, knowing smile. Perhaps it is time to discover the truth. I released a soft, anxious chuckle. It sounds utterly daunting. Perhaps, but there's an element of thrill in it, wouldn't you agree? I remained silent. I was unable to respond. Deep within, I recognized the truth in his words. We lingered in silence for a time, the world beyond continuing its relentless pace. Cars gliding by, laughter echoing, and the wind whispering through the golden leaves of autumn. Life didn't stop for contemplation, yet perhaps for the first time I found it necessary. At last, I placed my cup aside and locked eyes with him. I can't predict what lies ahead, Richard, but I am certain that it's time for me to begin truly living once more. A smile danced at the edge of his lips. That was all I wished for you to understand. On that night when Mark returned home, I was already perched at the kitchen table, waiting. He scarcely glanced in my direction as he settled into his seat, placing his briefcase on the floor and loosening his tie. Long day, he murmured. I'm exhausted. I observed him for a moment. This man with whom I had woven a life, this man I had cherished for years. Yet, as he navigated the familiar spaces of our home, an invisible gulf stretched between us, a divide I had failed to recognize as it widened over time. I inhaled deeply. Mark, can we talk? He paused, finally casting a glance in my direction. About what? I swallowed hard. About us? His brows knitted together in slight confusion. What about us? I paused, then finally spoke the words that had been simmering within me since the previous night. I feel invisible, Mark. He blinked. What? It seems I've devoted countless years to being the wife who stands by your side, who ensures the wheels of our life keep turning, who maintains the balance in our world. And my love for you is unwavering. Yet, somewhere in this journey, I faded from view. He furrowed his brow, clearly taken aback. Evelyn, where is this coming from? I shook my head. It's been there for a long time. I simply never allowed myself to voice it. He took a seat opposite me, his hand moving over his face in contemplation. I had no idea you felt this way. I observed him intently. Have you ever pondered? He remained quiet. In that instant, I came to a painful realization. Mark was not an unkind husband. He did not act with malice or intentional disregard. He had merely believed, as I did, that marriage was synonymous with routine. That sense of comfort sufficed. We no longer felt the need to reach out to one another as we had in the past. Yet that was not truly living. That wasn't love. Not anymore. What do you mean? He finally inquired, his tone laced with caution. I took a deep breath. It's time to reclaim my life for myself. His expression dimmed a shade. Are you leaking me? I paused, then slowly shook my head. I can't predict what the future has in store, Mark. But one thing is certain. I can't continue to appear this way. For the sake of our marriage, a transformation is essential. He gazed at me intently, and in that moment, after so many years, I caught a glimpse of something stirring in his eyes. Awakening. Perhaps there was an opportunity to mend this. Perhaps there was not. Yet, after years of uncertainty, I felt prepared to uncover the truth.